What's going on, people? Welcome to another Emotion Football live stream. My name is Alam, and we're back. Second live stream of the night. Today, we are looking at the teams that have a lot of money to spend, but they also got pieces to replace in the offseason. We're looking at the Commanders and the Chargers. Um, yeah, interesting teams. Both made the playoffs. Both have their quarterbacks. Both have their coaching staffs locked in. So, interesting spots for both these teams to be in. We're gonna jump right into it. Shout out to everybody watching live. Shout out to everybody that might be checking this out after the fact on replay. Make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to show your support for In Motion Football. That's the absolute best way to do so. So we're gonna jump right into it. We are not doing those two teams. We are doing the Commanders and the Chargers today. So big up to Jen Will wherever he is. But yeah, we're gonna look at the Chargers first and foremost. Where is LA? Here we are. Okay, so Los Angeles Chargers. What do we have here? We have a team that made the playoffs and ultimately lost. A disappointing game from Justin Herbert. If we look at what they were from an EPA standpoint, you're talking about the 13th ranked offense, and you're talking about the 5th ranked defense. So, death taxes and Jim Harbaugh having a good defense. Um, Obviously, he didn't have the personnel that a lot of people would assume is top 5 personnel, but he found a way to get the job done. In terms of what this team has, or what this team is bringing back. Joey Bosa missed a lot of time, but apparently Joey Bosa is going to get cut, so he's going to be gone. Khalil Mack, a free agent, he either has to be paid or he has to be replaced. They're probably going to roll with Henley and Colson at linebacker, so they're set at linebacker. But you're losing Morgan Fox, who played a lot last year, and Poona Ford. Both these players were big contributors. So you're losing 2 defensive tackles and 2 edge rushers. You're damn near losing an entire defensive line. That's not nothing. You're also losing Asante Samuel Jr., who's solid, and Christian Fulton. For what it's worth, I don't think Fulton is great at football. I mean, I don't even know if he's good. So that's not really much to lose. You had Taheeb Steele play. He was good. You had Cam Hart play. I think he'll probably play next year. I don't know how good he is, but he's good enough to be playing meaningful minutes in the 5th ranked defense by EPA. They just paid Elijah Molden, so they're gonna have Molden and Derwin James at safety. They're probably gonna have Taheeb Steele and Cam Hart. So they need to bring in a corner at least, but more importantly, they need to bring in a whole defensive line. So that's not nothing to be losing. And then when you look at the offensive side of things, they're missing Dobbins. They got to replace Dobbins. But what I would say is that Dobbins was their best running back by far, and he was the running game. So when he got hurt last year and they had to rely on Gus Edwards and Kamani Vidal, the running game completely died. And it wasn't just that it was ineffective. It was so bad that they didn't even try to run the ball. The volume of rushes called by Greg Roman dropped sharply when J.K. Dobbins got hurt. And for Greg Roman to abandon the run, that's how you know it's bad. So, yeah, they're just missing one running back, but they're missing their whole running game with J.K. Dobbins. And then they're missing Bradley Bozeman at center. Now, shout out to Jen Will, wherever he is. I know he's probably going to be watching this after the fact. He talked about replacing Bradley Bozeman all year last year. So that's not really a huge thing to have to replace, but you do have to go get a starting offensive lineman. And then when it comes to the receiver position, I think they have I think with Darius Davis and Quentin Johnston, their 3rd-year players next year, you have your wide receiver 3 and wide receiver 4. With Ladd McConkey, you have a 1 or a 2, but you need a receiver as well. So when it comes to the Chargers, you need to replace a receiver, you need to replace a center, you need to replace a running back, and you need to replace a whole defensive line. So we're going to go to the Chargers money. They're in the lower half of the league, so they have money to spend, but boy, did they have to replace talent, man. Boy, did they have a lot of talent to replace, and they're not in the lowest tiers, right? They're on par with, I think this is the Panthers, the Cardinals. Is it the Cardinals? Yeah, it's the Cardinals. The Cardinals, Falcons, and Titans. That's my understanding of those No, it's just the Cardinals and the Titans. But yeah, you're in here clustered with other teams. You don't have the most money to spend, right? You have money to spend, but it's not a crazy amount. And you have a lot that you have to replace, right? If they want Khalil Mack back, they have to pay him. If they want to replace Bosa, it's not going to be a cheap player. Puna Ford and Morgan Fox, those aren't household names, but those were their defensive tackles in what was a good defense last year. Yeah, man. The Chargers have a lot of money to spend. They have to do a whole lot of replacing. I think sometimes they, unfortunately for new regimes, they could get caught up in a cycle of the roster where it's hard to get continuity. The Chargers are guaranteed to not have continuity. I mean, I don't think it's worth it for them to pay all these players that are leaving to run this team back that got bounced in the wild card. Uh, they have to transition into a new version of themselves. So the Chargers have an interesting offseason ahead of them. Yeah, they're going to have to spend. They have a good amount of money to spend. They're going to have to be spending it on a lot of talent that's going to come in and replace players that are leaving. So, as far as what I would do, I would want to honestly, I would be bringing in 2 running backs. I'm not comfortable with Gus Edwards being 1 snap away from being my lead back. To me, these running backs are like RB3s now. I need 2 running backs. I I'll take General's word for it. I'm gonna go get a center. Uh, Surprisingly, I actually don't know if I would go after a big name receiver in a Greg Roman offense. I think that they could draft a receiver round 2, round 3. Um, and be in a pretty good spot at the wide receiver 2 next to McConkey in a Greg Roman offense. He's not an air raid offensive coordinator by any means. So that's what I would be comfortable with. I want to make sure that the offensive line in the running game is solid. And I want to make Herbert's life as easy as possible in the playoffs. We're going to give him a hell of a ground game. So that's where my focus would be offensively. And then, good God, defensively, man, when you're missing 2 defensive tackles and 2 edge rushers, D-line, 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 D-line. I think, like I said, between Tahib Steele, Cam Hart, Elijah Molden, and Derwin James, you have 4 of your 5 secondary players. Man, this has to be a D-line draft. So, what a Harbaugh offseason I'm here asking for. I'm asking for defensive linemen, offensive linemen, and a running game. And running backs. This is a very fundamental trenches football kind of offseason I'm looking for. Big up, Prime, bro. Good to see you. Appreciate the support as always. So that's what we're looking at, people. We need this team to make some trenches investments. You just saw your division rival get clapped in the Super Bowl. And how did that happen? They went up against some superior trenches. You have to line up against that team 2, potentially 3 times a year. So with where this team is at, bro, they have to go offensive line, defensive line. And that's where the bulk of their money is going to be spent. And they just have to hope things work out at wide receiver and corner. But that's what we need, man. Like, they have not the greatest tight end position, but I could not care less. Yeah, appreciate this, Prime, for sure, man. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, like he said. Yeah, we need an offensive line draft and a defensive line draft for sure. But like I said, the Chargers, they have some money to spend. They're not high in the financial. By the way, they're here. I know you can't read it, but they're here. They're not high in the guaranteed money rankings. But shit, man, they're losing a lot of pieces they got to replace. But yeah, speaking of another team that has to do something similar, we're going to pivot to the Washington Commanders, the second team that we're looking at in the preview today. So the Washington Commanders, the numbers don't look as daunting in terms of the players that they're missing, but let's just take a look at what they were. The 4th ranked offense by EPA. And where were they defensively? The 16th ranked defense EPA. So great offense, okay defense by EPA. And then when you look at their ability to spend, they're up there. They're the 4th lowest on the guaranteed money rankings. More bread to spend than the Rams, Raiders, and Steelers. Than everybody but the Rams, Raiders, and Steelers. So they have a big opportunity to invest. But guys, low key, there's a lot of pieces missing. Again, the numbers, the names, the volume of starters might not be the same as the Chargers, but look at what they're missing. So you're missing two players in the secondary, Jeremy Chin and Noah Igbenogany, right? You got to replace two starters. Bigger than that, if you look at the players that they're retaining, Sandra Still, who's amazing, Quan Martin, who's pretty good, and Marshawn Lattimore, who they traded for, but he played like shit. He did not look good last year for the Commanders. And again, if you look at what they're bringing back, right? Jeremy Reeves is a special teamer, and then Percy Butler and Tyler Owens, I'm assuming that they're nobodies. So you're literally bringing back Quan Martin, Sandra Still, and a Marshawn Lattimore that we're not sure if he's still good at football or not. They're not bringing quite a bit back to their secondary. They really have to bring back, two starters because they're going to play Lattimore, but they should probably bring back some quality depth in case they can't play Lattimore as a starter. If they have to extend him to keep him, I really don't love that trade. I think you have to let him ride out the contract that he's already on because, man, it was not a good showing for him. But like I said, you're missing Chin. Igbenogany, I don't think he's anything special. I think Jeremy Chin played well, though. But you got to replace a huge chunk of your secondary. At the linebacker spot, you're missing Wagner and both your backups. So you're bringing back Luvu, and you basically have to piece together a linebacker room outside of that one player. And then when it comes to the edge spots, Fowler, Holmes, and Clelin Ferrell, all free agents, you're only bringing back Dorrance Armstrong. So again, just like the linebacker spot, you're bringing back one guy and you have to piece everything together. Now, defensive tackle, can't say anything there. They're pretty stacked. Even if they cut Jonathan Allen, like some people are speculating, Deron Payne and Johnny Newton, that's awesome. But yeah, at edge, at linebacker, and at secondary, they have to do quite a bit of building. And again, people, this was the 16th ranked defense by EPA. This was the defense that held 55 in the NFC Championship game. This is not a unit that can withstand this level of loss. Like, this is my point on the Commanders, is the defense was not the strength of their team, and the defense is going to be missing a lot of important pieces. So quite a bit needs to be figured out to replace what they're about to miss on that side of the ball. Now, when it comes to the offense, look, it's not quite as bad, but what I would say is that while they're missing a high volume in a Zaccheaus and Brown, those guys weren't big parts of the passing attack. Neither were Noah Brown or Jamison Crowder. Like, it was really a patchwork receiving core aside from Scary Terry, who is going to be back. But you got Scary Terry. The thing is, basically, the second most important weapon in the offense was Zach Ertz. He's a free agent, though. So I think about what they're bringing back on offense, and I thought that their offensive line was okay. I don't think it was anything special. I really think that last year's offense, the fact that they're the fourth-ranked offense on EPA, that's more about the brilliance of Jaden Daniels. I don't think that's about the offensive line. Like, that's a great indication of the offensive line at all. Also, Sam Cosmi is going to be rehabbing an injury going into next year, so kind of a tough spot for them. I think they have to add more to the offensive line. I think they have to add more to the running back room because I don't think Eckler and Brian Robinson were really big helps to Jaden Daniels. I think at best they did their roles at times. But I think that part of the team could get better. But you can't really even look to get your offensive line and your running back. You can't really look to get upgrades at those spots before you get the upgrades in other parts. Like, not the upgrades, the replacements. Like, you can't upgrade O-line and running back until you replace all the pieces you're losing in the secondary. And, again, De'Ami Brown and Zaccheaus maybe aren't the biggest names, but together with Zach Ertz, you're losing a chunk of your passing attack. Like, this team is losing quite a bit in the offseason, quite a bit that has to be replaced. So that's my thing with Washington. Again, Washington, they're being put in the same bracket as the Chargers. Now, the difference is that they have significantly more money to spend than the Chargers. It's not the same. But, man, a lot of the money that they're going to be spending is going to be replacing talent. So when you see some of these big checks signed and these big contracts to get signed, you might think, oh, wow, Washington football team. Look at they got to an NFC championship game and they're writing a lot of checks. Yes, they will be writing big checks, but they will be having to write big checks to put together an edge rush rotation and put together a linebacker rotation and put together a secondary. And then when that's done, the checks that they write to upgrade the O-line and the running back room, that's when you can really begin to evaluate how much better they're going to get. But I think from a personnel standpoint, they're not really going to have an opportunity to get considerably better through just purely becoming a better personnel. They're going to have to rely on some internal growth. They're going to have to rely on Ben Sinnott developing their second round pick from last year. They're going to have to rely on Jaden Daniels keeping his plates. Like, I would say asking him to get better is a little bit ridiculous because of how good he was last year and the fact that sophomore slumps are a real thing and he's going to be going against NFL defenses who have a whole year of tape. I think him sustaining what he did last year is the most you can ask for. So, you're going to have to ask for that. You're going to have to ask for Ben Sinnott to develop. You're going to have to ask Luke McCaffrey to develop. You're going to have to ask for Johnny Newton to become the superstar, that he has the potential to be. You're going to have to ask for Mikey Sanders still to maybe compensate for the fact that Marshawn Lattimore is not that guy anymore. I think it'll be really hard for Washington to get better from a personnel standpoint. I think the best they can ask for is that through free agency, they, hold still from a talent standpoint, and then their young players develop. They have a good draft. That's their way of getting better. Again, I just think that despite the fact that Washington has money to spend, there's quite a bit of players that they have to replace before they meaningfully make the rotation better. So the roster better. So that's what it is for Washington, people. That's that. Yeah, as far as my preview for the Chargers and Commanders goes, that's what I had for those two teams. Big up to everybody watching, 8 people watching live. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If you guys have any questions about these teams or maybe some of the other teams, I'll leave the stream going a little bit for any questions or comments. But aside from that, I that's what I got for today and yesterday. We got a couple more teams to do tomorrow. Yeah, I'm going to do more of these tomorrow. So we finished Commanders and Chargers. Going to do these 2 streams tomorrow. So we're going to talk about expensive teams tomorrow. We talked about a lot of teams with a lot of money to spend today. We're going to talk about teams that don't really have money to spend tomorrow. Jaguars, Saints, Cowboys, Dolphins. Let's pull up the financial thing here. So yeah, these are all teams in the top 7. Saints, Cowboys, Dolphins, Jaguars. These are all teams in the top 7 of guaranteed money. Neither of these teams have the luxury of spending more. And we're going to talk into the little nuances of what you do when you have a lot of money spent in this CBA. So it's going to be a good stream tomorrow, people. My hope is to do them a little bit earlier. I started at 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to shoot for like 8:30 Eastern tomorrow, but it might have to be the same time. But you guys know what it is, people. Shout out to everybody watching live. Make sure you guys hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. We're going to talk about 4 more football teams. We're going to chip away at these previews after tomorrow. There's only going to be 5 streams left for the Offseason Preview Series. We're going to get into maybe some prediction streams. We're going to predict who's going to be where in free agency. And then the week after that, free agency, people, we're going to turn the page to the next NFL season. And time flies, people. But yeah, big up to everybody in here. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. I'm out.